Hey guys, and welcome to the cold call training video. So in today's video, I've actually went through like my whole cold calling process, my structure, all the principles you really need to succeed in cold calling. Why should you listen to me? Well, I've been cold calling for 3 years in the SMMA space. I've mentored tens of people that they've generated tens and tens of thousands of dollars from cold calling. When I was in the landscaping niche like 2 years ago, I had a 5.5% appointment booking rate. When I worked with realtors, I had a 7% appointment booking rate, and I've helped people generate those like similar amount of numbers, regardless of if they had an Indian accent or not. They still got results just by applying these principles that I go through in this video. And yeah, I think that's about it. I'm excited to hear you guys' thoughts on the training. So yeah, I'll just cut to training.
Hey, welcome to the cold calling video. Just some little points here to clear up at the beginning. This is the culmination of my entire cold calling experience, just compiled into like this little doc right here. I don't want to overcomplicate things here, but my goal here is to make you understand the difference of where you currently are at cold calling wise and where you can get to by just applying some small tweaks in the iteration process. And this video is going to be great for you to watch if you're a beginner or if you're already experienced in cold calling. If you're experienced, you might see some things that you were more familiar with in this video, but you might also see some things you're lacking that you can apply and just get better results. And if you're a beginner, you need to understand this. Some other things to clear up. People always ask me what I say during cold calls. It's not as simple as copying what I say word for word. If it was, everybody would just copy each other and make a bunch of money. Copying can work in a certain way, but only when you apply certain rules to the inspiration process. But regardless, don't copy what I say word for word. That works to an extent, but you have to at least keep the main principles that I'm going to teach you here. Reapply them in your own script, in your own niche, in the way you sound, the people you're serving, etc., etc. And you want to remake this entire process and apply it to your script. Also, I'm not going to be going through any mindset training in this because if you can't sit down and do 100, 300 cold calls a day, and always try and get better by applying conscious effort, then you're not really cut out for this anyway. So just get off, go somewhere else. I don't care. Okay. Regardless, getting into things. Finally, there are timeless principles that work, and then there are custom solutions that work. What do I mean by this? So timeless principles is when the framework you're using has certain qualities that are the foundation of a great cold call. If you can master these principles, these basics, before you go to custom solutions, it's gonna dramatically increase pretty much everything, right? If I were to give you a metaphor here, just imagine a guy who's obsessed with the gym, like me, and he wants to get jacked as humanely possible, right? It's better that he first trains for years and reaches his maximum, reaches his natural capacity before he hops on steroids, right? Although I'm not gonna hop on steroids, but regardless, you need these timeless principles as a foundation, or else you can't apply custom solutions, well, efficiently at least. So whether you're a beginner or have experience, as I said earlier, there's gonna be certain elements you're familiar with or you may not be, and these are some basic cold hard truths that are gonna that are necessary for what a good cold call is, anyways, right? And these are going to remain timelessly true regardless of any industry changes. So here I'm in the little training here. I'm going to cover what the timeless principles are mainly. The reason being is I can't help everyone behind the screen maximize their scripts to their maximum potential, just because it's an iteration process, right? So I can't help you apply custom solutions because they're custom, but I'm going to be going into timeless principles that you're going to be that are going to help you get the solid foundation, and then I'm going to show you how to apply custom solutions on your own. So what are timeless principles? The main ones that you need to that you really need to worry about is tonality and structure. So I want to preface this and just to get you to really understand here, right? Tonality is the number one timeless principle that's gonna put you on a different level than anybody else in the cold calling space, right? And I speak from personal experience here and from all the people I've coached. The difference in students I've mentored who can actually who have a good tonality versus the ones who don't. It's like comparing heaven and earth, right? They're on completely different levels, and I'm not really exaggerating here, right? I notice this in many people. If you can master your tone of voice, naturally and change it on the fly to convey certain emotions inside of the prospect's mind, then you're going to be getting drastically different results than just somebody who speaks like, hey, I'm just here to cold call you or whatever, right? So if there's one thing you get from this video, it should be that you mastered tonality 100%, right? I've seen it firsthand. It's not about the script or framework, right? I could say the exact same script or use the exact same cold calling framework as anybody else, but because I can change the way I sound, master my tonality, and get the prospect to feel certain emotions that I want them to feel in the moment, I'm going to be on a completely different level than anybody else that uses that framework, right? So we could be saying the same things, but I get better results just because of the way I sound. So the main reason for this is that people typically they hear how you sound before they hear what you say. So that's why tonality is more important than what you say. What makes a good tonality? Ironically, it's not actually forcing the tonality. Most people, when they cold call, they always put on certain personas, which typically means they're going to sound fake because they're reading a script, or they might be speaking too fast because they're reading, or they try to make themselves perceived a certain way that is different to like who they actually are. And that doesn't really work if they don't have the experience to do that to a higher like level. But yeah, that's typically the reason prospects won't really trust you, just because you don't know how to, like, subconsciously they won't trust you just because of how you sound. And I can give you a live example right now. Imagine this entire video I was just doing this. What makes a good tonality? Ironically, it's not forcing it. Most people, when they cold call, put on a certain persona. They sound fake because they're reading a script. So what makes a good tonality? Well, it's actually not forcing it, because most people, when they cold call, they always put on certain types of personas, which is why they kind of sound fake, right? Because they're reading a script. It's completely different. One is because you're only using the script as just to look at it, if you just to kind of keep track where you are. You want to know the script by heart, because that's going to increase your tonality and make you sound way more natural. Additionally, it's more framework. It's more like 60-70% memorized words that you say. 30-40% just improving, right? That's kind of what makes a good cold caller. So how do you have a base natural tonality? Well, I'm sure you've noticed that when you cold call, most people, especially beginners, they sound completely differently they sound completely different on a cold call versus how they naturally sound. So there are three main things to kind of succeed in here, right? Number one is belief. Second is detachment. And third is consciously applied effort. This is how you can maximize your tonality. And don't worry if you're confused. I'll explain things here in a bit. It's pretty straightforward, right? Belief. You first have to actually believe what you're saying, like the reason you're calling them. And because if you don't even believe what you're saying for a slight second, like maybe you're not confident in your offer, maybe you're very insecure about, I don't know, your accent or something. Subconsciously, they're gonna feel that, just because if you believe it, you're giving off subliminal indicators that will kind of make them believe that, per se, right? Additionally, yeah. So first things first, you want to believe what you're selling. You want to believe that when you're calling somebody, you're actually going to help them. Two is you have to detach, right? You have to detach completely from the cold call. A good example here is that if you're here at your desk, instead of just picking up your microphone, looking at your laptop, and just letting the power dialer rip and just reading off the script continuously, just standing still, cold calling, it's gonna be harder for you to like put on that tone, like turn on the switch of tonality and actually sound interested, just because it's kind of a robotic experience. Versus, imagine the guy who has like a wireless headset going around his room, I don't know, cleaning his room, shadow boxing while the power dialer goes, and he's speaking to them kind of on the fly, right? One is putting a lot of emphasis and importance on the cold call. The other guy is kind of just doing things while cold calling, which is gonna detach him from the stress or importance of, oh my god, I'm talking to somebody who might buy my offer, right? Detaching is gonna help you drastically. just because you're not putting emphasis on the cold call. You're not putting too much importance on it, which will allow you to improv better, take like better risks, actually connect with them on more important way, and they won't feel too like you're being too pushy or selling them just because like you don't need them. You're just there on the cold call to see if it's a potential fit so that you guys can actually like work together and have a beneficial partnership. Now, before I get into conscious applied effort, some other ways you can get your baseline natural tonality is imagine you're going to work at your job, or when you're hanging out with your friends, or let's say you're a waiter, and when you go to wait on people, like the voice that you speak, then I recommend that people when they like go talk with their friends, or they're in the workplace, or they're playing video games, right? Just record yourself. Either put your iPhone in your pocket with voice notes on, record yourself, or record it on your computer. Hitting that natural tonality you have when you're speaking to like normal people is the best. It's a really good way on self-reflecting to be able to just start consciously doing that. It's like you're playing chess, right? You won't get better at chess unless you do the game analysis. You won't get better at boxing unless you watch your fighting footage back and see where you made the mistakes. It's literally just that, right? A good way to do this is compare your tonality, your natural tonality, how you sound talking to people versus how you sound on cold calling, and always do the reviews on your cold calls, because then you're learning from your experience and you're applying maximum, and you're just getting the highest leverage activity at that point. So some other tips I have here is that speaking slower always helps out when cold calling because you maintain more control of the conversation. If I were just to speak really fast like this, just because I want to get my pitch across really fast and I'm uncomfortable on cold calls, they might not understand what I say and they'll likely feel that I'm nervous. Versus if I'm just speaking here at my natural pace or even a slower down pace, if you pay more attention here, I'm kind of forcing you to listen to what I say because I'm speaking so slow. Therefore, I'm kind of maintaining control of the conversation and actually getting them to understand what I'm saying, right? So that's kind of what you want to do. And ending on a lower when it comes to enunciation and ending on a lower inflection versus a higher upward inflection, like I just did there, you want to really pay attention to what you're saying. Sometimes 90% of the time you want to end on a lower inflection just because it sounds way better. But sometimes this is more advanced. If you're ending things with a question or a proposition, you can use an upward inflection and kind of proposition that in a better way. But for basic things, just end it on a lower inflection instead of a higher inflection, right? You can hear the difference. But yeah. So now once you've got your baseline tonality, you want to master kind of a range of tonalities here. Because if you can master a range of tonalities, you can input and convey certain emotions inside the prospect's mind, kind of leading them alongside your framework here. I've simplified this a lot here, but the only tonalities you really need here is confused old man, a curious guy tonality, or a confident Chad tonality. Before I get into the differences here real quick, and how they sound, you need to understand two things about cold calls. So this is when we're going to be getting into structure, and I'm going to be combining tonalities into the structure of the cold call, so that everything I've been saying is going to come together for you. So first, the structure about cold calls. The most important thing on a cold call is you need to ask situation questions, probing questions to kind of build meat on the bone, per se. You need to understand it's a framework, not a word for word script you're going to be saying. You need to kind of memorize the framework and learn it as you go and just apply it on the fly and improv as well. But yeah, here are some now. What you want from a cold call, just to simplify things even more, is you want to look for certain outcomes. You want to look for certain outcomes you get from the structure. And you get this by analyzing the anatomy of a cold call, because once you understand it, you can apply it, and understanding it is going to give you more confidence, and more confidence is going to give you a better tonality. So what are some outcomes we're looking to get from a cold call? Well, we want to make them curious, right? With the opener, we want to make them curious, start chill back and forth, Switch it so it's more about them instead of us going to the pitch. Openers want to break the ice and you want to grab their attention without being annoying or sounding like every other cold caller, right? You want to learn more about their situation. And by learning more about their situation, you start building trust. You make them more curious. If you can figure out their pain points and what's bothering them in the business, see what's actually missing. If you can also get them talking about themselves and actually understand what's going on with them, that's going to give you so much leverage when it comes down to actually pitching the call later. But before that, you always want to probe and clarify. You want to actually understand what they mean, like what they mean. If they say, "Oh, I've done all this, like I've done all these lead generation things in the past," you want to ask them, "Okay, what have you specifically done before, John? If you don't mind me asking." You want to actually understand if it was SEO, Facebook ad agency, if they were scammed, or whatever. You always want to probe and clarify exactly what they mean, so that you can position yourself best and give yourself the highest leverage possible. Plus, this really makes them feel like you actually care. So when you position your pitch and your offer, they're gonna be like, "Oh, he listened to my problems. He thinks he can help me with these problems. He understands my situation. Yeah, I'll hop on a call with this guy. Why not?" Right? This is why you also want to make them. This is when it comes to one of the outcomes you're also looking to get is problem awareness, which comes by following everything else. So you don't want to do a full sales call questioning thing, spending 40 minutes on a cold call, right? You want to ask 1 to 3 questions max just to get the firepower you need to get them to schedule and show up, right? And then book the call and pre-call material consumption is just the outcomes you're gonna get, right? These are the more simpler ones that I'll show you later. But yeah, quick overview of the structure. It always goes opening, what do you do statement, questions, pitch, ask for the call, objection handling, book, pre-call material consumption, right? So essentially, just to summarize things, if you can position yourself and format the way you express things in a way that avoids typical sales resistance, ask 1 to 3 questions just to find a problem, like typically needing more clients, needing more leads, needing more booked appointments, then you just position your offer as the solution once you've heard the problems, which gives you the meat on the bone that you're looking for to justify asking for the call. Do all that, then you're golden, and that's kind of what an ideal cold calling scenario actually looks like. So how do we combine tonality with structure? So now I'm going to be showing you the tonalities I talked about earlier, combining it with the structure and actual verbatim words that I've used before. The opening or confused old man tonality. "Hey John, it's just Felix here. I'm not even sure you're the right person for this. I was just wondering if you could help me out for a moment." Right, simple as that. What do you do statement? Curious guy. So I pretty much just help realtors in Canada get an extra 4 to 7 closed deals in a few months or so, typically just by growing their personal brand. Like, I was just working with John from Calgary the other day, and he's actually already connected with 2 leads in just 2 weeks, from just 2 posts we made. So I was just wondering if you would be against giving me like a few moments to explain there. Now see what I did there, right? I sounded completely different to what I sound. It was more higher pitch, curious guy, not sounding like a cocky sales guy from the get-go, coming more from a curiosity type of perspective. Because from what I found when I frame it that specific way, kind of more like open-ended, like, yeah, I'm just looking to see if I can help you, because I helped John from Calgary last week do this, and I don't sound like a douche immediately off the bat, then he's way more likely to let me get to the pitch. One thing you'll notice here is that as I go through the structure, you always want to grow in confidence as the cold call goes on. So you open up, you're the confused old man, not sure where you're going, right? Then you're more like the curious guy, curious to see if you can actually help him out. Once you've asked him the probing questions and all of that, and you go to the pitch, you're now the confident Chad who's heard all his problems because he was just curious to see if you could help. And now you're confident in pitching so that you can actually help him solve those problems, right? It's just a simple process, guys. So here are some more questions. Now these are just regular questions that you're gonna ask in the curious guy tonality. So John, before I get into that, just to make sure this might even be a good fit for you first, how are you currently getting new listings? Oh, gotcha. So can you even take on any more listings with your schedule? Okay. And how many extra like seller opportunities can you guys even handle with your current schedule, right? So now you get to the pitch. You up the confidence here. So it's okay, got it. So John, I think I seem to have a basic understanding of your situation here. I don't want to be too direct, but I actually believe we can get you from. You said you're currently getting only 5 seller listing appointments a month that are actually qualified. I want to get you to that 15 mark, and just so you can kind of get rid of talking to all these dead leads and kind of just focus your attention on being a realtor and not focusing on lead generation. But yeah, to pretty much give you a quick breakdown here, I help agents get more leads, which I'm pretty sure every other cold caller has said the exact same thing before. But instead of offering you like Facebook ads, where you usually get some low quality leads that are typically time wasters, or sometimes they're not even real, we actually help you establish your own personal brand with video content using our UBF method, right? Because as you might know with paid ads, the leads will stop as soon as the money does. But this way with organic content, it just compounds and compounds over time. And through it, we actually attract your ideal leads so they can come directly to you. And we even qualify and book them in for you so they can kind of just buy or sell directly through you, if that makes sense. Right? Now, you can kind of hear how I was pitching that and how I was talking. It's more of a subtle confidence instead of like, yeah, John, so I'm really excited for you here just because I think we can get you to this mark that you're looking here, right? That type of tonality doesn't work anymore. Doing this is very low key, but it gets the job done, which is the most important part, right? And then with booking, I don't really need to cover this that much. It's just as simple as asking for the booking time, looking at your calendar and seeing what time fits in. If he doesn't have any objections. But one thing you want to make sure when you're booking them in is that you get them to open the email and click the calendar invite, like click yes on the calendar on the Google Calendar invite, just so they get the notifications and stuff, right? And you also want to get their acknowledgement that they see the pre-call materials that are linked in the initial email. And yeah, pre-call material consumption is probably the most how do I say this? Pre-call material consumption is definitely the most underrated thing that most cold callers don't actually do. So instead of just saying like, hey, awesome, got you booked in for Friday. Yeah, here's the pre-call materials. I just sent them over. Can you watch them before your call? Yeah, sure thing. 90% won't watch it, right? You've already got them booked here. So all you say is, awesome, John, got you booked in here. Would you have 15 to 20 minutes just to kind of get through some material that can kind of help you get more informed, like sometime before your call? Otherwise, it might feel like you're kind of wasting your time here, to be honest. Yeah, so the information, the videos, it covers some basic helpful information like our background, how we got into the business model itself, how we can source these opportunities for you, and some other really cool stuff. And you'll obviously want to change this to whatever your pre-call materials say, right? And once they say yes to actually watching it, this is where it's really important, right? This is where you personalize it and give them a quick breakdown of the video, right? You want to outline a certain part of the video that you think resonates with their certain situation that you found out earlier in the cold calling process, which is going to get them to watch it like tremendously more, right? So something like, okay, awesome. So just to give you a quick breakdown here, once you've actually gone on the page and started working your way through the video, I personally recommend paying attention to the part where we kind of go over our process in a bit more detail. Typically around 5 minutes in is when I think I start. But yeah, I really think that part would resonate with you and show you how we can get you these organic leads without relying on paid ads, like I mentioned earlier, right? That's gonna make you golden on the actual cold call, okay? And now you want to actually track how many people watch the pre-call materials. So you say, oh yeah, awesome, John. Just before I go here, once you've actually gone through the video, could you message me on this number the word watched, just so we can prioritize your slot on our calendar, by the way. They'll say yes 90% of the time, right? And this is gonna not only drastically increase your pre-call material consumption, which is what's gonna increase your show rate and your closing rate on calls, it's also gonna allow you to have more data on tracking, okay? Now, getting into objection handling, or as I like to call it, objection deflection. Since that was just what it is, you want to leave handling the root cause of the objections for the actual sales call, right? You want to sell the meeting more than ever, and the way you just do this is, I'll break it down here, right? So when you deal with objections or when they push back on you, so when people try to throw shade at you or try to shut you down on a cold call, you always want to use this 3 quick step process so you don't really freeze or end up losing the convo to the objection. So step 1 is just have a go-to anchor line. It's basically like a short line that you have memorized to kind of keep you calm and know where you have to go in the objection handling process without like breaking or freaking out on the call, okay? Step 2 is you want to drop a pattern break line. Sometimes it takes like it's something that takes like 4 to 6 seconds to say, and it throws them off just enough so they don't instantly hang up. It buys you some extra time too. What I always would love to say is, if they give me the objection, what's the price? A good example of this is I would just say it's 30 grand for the whole thing, followed by silence, and then I just start laughing. That throws them off just enough to keep the conversation going so I can handle the objection and sell the meeting. Step 3, you'll always want to have a solid question ready. This is going to keep the convo live and it gets them talking instead of you just like rambling, okay? Okay, so that's kind of what objection handling is. I'm not going to be going full detail because it really depends on your niche and kind of everything. But here are some guidelines below that you can use that I'm going to show you real quick just as an example. There's a lot of them. I'm not going to be going through everything here. If you want this entire doc right here, just DM me on Instagram doc, and I'll just send this to you if you want. But so yeah, this is how you handle the not interested objection. So, oh, that's not a problem, John. I didn't even know I could help you guys quite yet. But like for example, how are you guys even currently like generating leads, or how are you currently generating jobs, or seller opportunities, or buyer opportunities? Right? You can see how it depends on the niche. Right? So if you want this doc, this entire doc where you can see all of these, just DM me doc on Instagram and I'll send it over. Now, just to kind of help you with what customized solutions are, once you have your baseline framework built on top of timeless principles, you start applying custom solutions. Now, custom solutions are dependent on person, like what type of person you are, the type of people you're speaking to, the personalities, the niche, offer, speaking patterns, data. You want to take all of this into account and apply it on top of timeless principles so you can get the max, so you can just kind of optimize everything. All right. In the custom, now I can't do this personally for you, but I can give you examples here. So in the customization part, you want to take into consideration and analyze something like, hey, I'm going to be honest, this is a cold call. Can you give me 20 seconds to explain? You want to analyze why this doesn't work anymore and why something like this does, which is, hey, John, it's just Felix. I'm not even sure if you're the right person for this. I was just wondering if you could help me out for a second, right? You want to analyze why this doesn't work and why it works, and then just apply what works to what works. Simple, right? And this comes into account with the like iterative experience of life here. You need to constantly iterate and experiment with new things that work, remake it in your own way, and bash and apply those principles into your very core as part of your cold calling foundations. And the only way you can do that is using the last essential element that is the cause for success in any industry, which is applied conscious effort, right? The reason applied conscious effort works is because you're awake and aware when applying a certain strategy, and you apply it a certain amount of times consistently, seeing it work, and innately familiarizing yourself with the process until applied conscious effort becomes subconscious second nature. So like anything in life, when you do when you do a ridiculous amount of consistency and practice, always looking back and analyzing and reflecting why something worked or why it didn't work, they naturally ingrain and become part of you till you inevitably do it all naturally and subconsciously without thought, right? Kind of like an ultra instinct type thing, right? To give you an example here, I personally like to box. So when I started boxing, when I was 13, I was manually thinking, moving, and learning what was right and what wasn't. And I was manually telling my brain to jab, hook, cross, everything, to be aware of my footwork and etc. But then, after a year or two, It just started happening naturally. I didn't need to think about it. I would just move. Right? Like you hear the saying, make the subconscious conscious. Well, that doesn't work because 95% of your being is subconscious, it's innate. 5% is actually conscious. You want to make the conscious subconscious, meaning you apply something consciously that you want to apply subconsciously. So when you're trying to implement a healthy habit, you do it consciously first and then you just do it innately subconsciously, right? It becomes routine, it becomes part of you, which is why which is what makes the difference between somebody who succeeds versus somebody who doesn't. So in conclusion to this whole thing, just get good, bro. I'm sorry, bye.
Hey guys, Felix here again. So I hope you enjoyed the cold call training video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, just leave a comment down below. Let me know. If you want the exact doc I went through in this video, just go on Instagram at Kadar Felix and DM me the word doc, and I'll just send it to you. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it. A little bit more about me. I don't actually sell anything cold calling related. This is just some free sauce I wanted to leave out. I was just a regular SMMA guy cold calling back in the day, and I accidentally became a cold calling coach because I responded pretty well in comments. But yeah, that's just about it. So hopefully you guys kind of find this helpful. Let me know if these tips and tricks have helped you, and just get to applying the principles if you want to actually succeed when it comes to cold calling. So yeah, go crush it.